Let's get into our conversation for the hour now. We are talking sports, right? Where the money meets the sports, right? Essentially, we have talked about how to make sure that our sportsmen and women get, paid fairly, that we have a sports industry that is thriving and not just happy accidents, as James Okabi likes to call them. But let's talk about it with someone who is in the process of doing that. That is the CEO of Nairobi City Thunder. That's Collin Rasmussen. He's also CEO of Twende Sports. Good morning, Collin.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Good to have you. Before we begin, Janet will share the quote of the day with you. We usually have a little quote. You can say if it speaks to you, if you disagree with it or not. Okay?
The quote is by the Senator of Busia County, or Okia Omtata, and he said here on this show, the new name of peace is development. The new name of peace is development. What do you make of that?
Well, I would agree, I think, in the sense of, like, even in sports, we consider sports part of development. And, what we're trying to do is take it to the next level. And in that, we create more opportunities that hopefully creates more of a platform for young people to engage. And I think the more young people are engaged, the more you'll see peace. So yeah. I would agree, I think.
It's a direct line.
Very beautiful one. I want to start, Collin, by asking, what is Nairobi City Thunder?
Nairobi City Thunder is... It's a Premier League basketball team. It's been around for 20 years. And we... so Twende Sports is the company I run. Took it over 3 years ago. But it's been around for a long time. Before we took it over, it was a community team. We transformed it into the first fully professional team in the Premier League. So what we mean by that is everybody gets paid on the team full-time, and they're full-time athletes, full-time staff, and they have all of the benefits that you would see on a professional team, healthcare, high performance support in terms of physiotherapy, all that stuff. So, since taking it over, we've gone undefeated in the Premier League for the last 2 years, 2.5 years. So we've won
undefeated.
Yes. Yeah.
2 seasons in a row.
2.5, yeah. Yeah. So we are, 2 times champions now, and looking for our 3rd championship this year.
Wow. I know soon, hopefully, we'll play Mariam's clip. Usijali, never feel like you're...
I thought we'd actually forgotten.
No. The director is like, it's very ready. Mariam with her basketball
Why did I get myself
I know.
this?
But I wanted to ask...
But you say that you defeated them.
Yeah.
You're
undefeated.
No.
Here
I
is
was
the
with
owner
City
of the
Thunder.
club saying they are undefeated.
It was. Let me give context. It was a friendly match.
Okay.
And I was with City Thunder.
Okay.
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 All right.
Still undefeated though.
Versus, it was a celebrity match. So
All right. No worries. No,
call
I'm
it.
just joking. I did not mean to put Mariam on the spot.
I was about to be like, oh my God, they actually think I play basketball.
I know, but I wanted to ask, and maybe this is skipping a few steps, is how you make a team commercially viable, because I'm sure there's so much to consider, so much to look at. What does that process and journey look like?
So it's a good question, and I think one that is a long answer, but I'll give a short answer, which is that you have to create the opportunity for partnership with sponsors and with the fans in general, because the more popular the team is, the more you're able to translate that into eyeballs on other people's products. So our main revenue is sponsorship. But it also translates into merchandise sales, into eventually media deals, etc. So the idea, we're very early stage, right? So we're only a couple of years in, and so the importance of growing the fan base and growing the brand is paramount. And then on the back end of that, then you can commercialize.
Okay. I wanted to get just a little bit of context to understand how you came into, City Thunder, but basketball in general. What's your background, and then why invest in, the Kenyan Premier League, the basketball league here?
So I've been in Kenya for 15 years, and it's home. My kids were born here, and they believe they are Kenyan, even though they're American as well. And I feel very Kenyan at this point in the sense that this is my home. So we've been here 15 years, and during that time, I have been involved in the basketball community in more as a kind of for fun initially, and we built me and my now co-founder Kush Derrier, we built a court in Westlands years ago, and we saw the community that came around that court. And the energy in the system. Kush, my co-founder, also played in the Premier League for a long time, and he understood the ecosystem very well. And so a few years ago, we thought, hey, look, this is something that has a lot of momentum. The sport has a lot of momentum, but nobody's investing in it. So can we, with a little bit of investment, what can happen? And so we started 3 years ago, like I said, and then it just, we saw a lot of traction, and so we kept going.
Okay. And then the fact that you're already in the sport means you had, first-hand knowledge of what it takes. That's from the sporting angle. What was your biggest worry from the money angle? Or continues to be, maybe, I don't know.
No, I think convincing people so we're a private company, right? So it's not just about the revenues that you're generating that we spoke about earlier, but it's also about investment, right? And convincing people to invest in sports in this economy is not easy because it's just not something that's been done. But you can easily point to the global sports economy and say, look, this is obviously working very well in the global sports ecosystem. So why not apply it here? You just have to think a little bit more downstream. You have to think about the ecosystem that you have to build out to make it successful. So you can't just invest in a basketball team. You got to think about facilities. You got to think about the youth development side of things as well. So that's where our eyes are next, is like, how do you build out those parts of the ecosystem in order to make it all successful?
Sounds like you're doing someone's job for them.
I know.
There's a ministry of, we talk about facilities, the ecosystem. Those are things that should be part of our policy. But I want to understand how let's go into just basketball alone, how it works in the country, how our leagues work. Essentially, you said this is a professional team, so people are getting paid. It's a full-time job for them. Does that mean for other teams it's not? And I've seen this with our rugby players, etc. It's like, okay, I'm doing my master's, I'm also playing for our national rugby team. I work a corporate job 9 to 5, and then I go to practice. Is that the case for basketball? And what does the league look like?
There's no other teams that are fully professional in the sense that everybody is doing it full time. But there are other teams that have full-time professional players, if that makes sense. So you might have, 3 or 4 full-time athletes, but that's increasing. Over the last couple of years, we've seen more investment coming into the sport, which we're really excited about. Because for us, we don't want to live in isolation, right? The thesis from the beginning was, if we have a proof point that this can work, then others will invest, and that's good. First of all, for Kenyan basketball, and then secondly, it's also good. I mean, it's also good for us, right, as a business, because we want to be playing against other teams that are also competitive, and it's good for the fans, right? You don't want to just be smashing it year in and year out. Yeah. So I think you're seeing more investment going in, but so far we don't have any other fully professional teams in the league.
Okay. I want to ask about that investment and the ownership. Just to take you a couple of steps back. Does Twende Sport own Nairobi City Thunder?
Yes.
What does own mean?
So it means that so there's the way. Okay, so it's a long story, because the way that teams are registered with the Ministry of Sports here is complicated. You can't make commercial.
So it's not like a limited company.
So the commercial rights
as the team, as the club.
Yeah, let me put it this way: the commercial rights of the team are owned by a limited company.
Okay.
Yeah, which is Twende Sports.
So how did you walking through that? I'm just asking this for the purpose of people understanding how to invest in sports, right? Mm-hmm. So Nairobi City Thunder was, like you said, a community basketball club. Mm-hmm. People were coming in and playing for Nairobi City Thunder and leaving and graduating, coming back, supporting, mentoring younger players and so on and so forth, participating in all these championships, winning and so on. Mm-hmm. Now, it was registered with the Ministry of Sport as a club, right? So it's not registered as a company, is it? It's registered as a club.
Right, but the commercial side is of the club is it's a limited liability.
So there's then a commercial side that is a limited company that is registered with the Register of Companies, right? So is that the one that now Twende Sports went and bought?
No, the club. So first of all, by the way, the registration of clubs is pretty new. When we entered when we took over the Nairobi City Thunder, I think there was maybe one or two clubs in the entire Premier League that were registered at that time. This is 3 years ago. Okay, so now I think most of them are registered.
How many teams in the Premier League?
12. So now, like, Nairobi City Thunder, for example, it also was not registered at the time. Now it's registered, and fully compliant with the Ministry of Sports, etc. The commercial side has to be under a limited liability company, not under the register. Not under the club's registration, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And this is done in rugby as well, and other things, because of the way that it's set up in the system. So I think there does need to be, look, I'm not an expert on this, but I think there does need to be some reform around how sports is registered, like sports teams are registered, so that it enables investors to come in more easily. Instead of, you can see me all like, this is how it works and everything.
What kind of loops did you have to jump in that? So you're interested in basically coming and investing in this. Yeah. You see it's a good team. You find out that there's a commercial side of it, that this is what it's called, and you'd like to buy the rights of that commercial side. Yeah. What kind of hoops did you have to jump? How many offices did you have to go to get this done?
A lot. It took months. Yeah, and so there are pain points that I think need to be smoothed out in order to make it easier for people to invest in sports. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as it stands right now, do you have exclusive rights to this club?
Yes.
Or is there any loophole somewhere that someone could come, a member of the club come and say, these guys have the commercial side.
We
have
this other
side. No, we're not worried about that. We've taken a lot of legal counsel on this, and that's buttoned up. I think the going back to the transparency and maybe that's the wrong word, but it just needs to be clearer how you go through this process. If it was clearer, I know other people that have approached us to say, we would like to invest in a club as well. How do you do it? And then you start to tell them, and then they're like, well, that sounds hard.
Never mind. This may sound simplistic, but what does it benefit to own a club? What does it mean? Because I know I've seen that mostly. I think in the US, when you hear so-and-so has bought this club, and then it's vague. But why is it important? And then how does that then allow you to then invite investors and to grow the club professionally and financially as well?
I don't remember which Hollywood star recently bought a Premier League team.
Oh, the Ryan Reynolds one.
Ryan Reynolds, yes, with Wrexham, right?
Okay. Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot now. And teams like not in not just Europe but also emerging markets. So look, we initially came to this because we we're passionate about basketball, Kush and I, and we were like, nobody's doing this, like I mentioned before, and we believe that by investing in the team like this, it's going to bring others to the table to invest. But overall, our motivation was always about creating an opportunity for the next generation of players. Like right now, a lot of the players that we know that are getting older, that are our age that can't play anymore. They're like, man, I wish this was around 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
I would have had a totally different experience and opportunities, And so we're generally, initially inspired by that. And then, when it comes to the business side of things, as we've grown, we've seen that there are a lot of opportunities. The NBA is now investing very heavily in Africa with the Basketball Africa League.
Yeah.
I think you guys know that we're the first Kenyan team to qualify for the Basketball Africa League 2 years in a row. We just came back from South Africa.
That's amazing.
And that investment is also very exciting, right? Because you can see that sports in Africa has tremendous possibility. Not just from a talent perspective, but also from a demand perspective for fans, right? Like people love sports and they want to engage with sports, but a lot of the engagement is watching European teams play soccer or American teams play basketball. Why not here on the continent?
It's a beautiful thing to see as well. I found out about Nairobi City Thunder actually through Instagram because random, I don't know, weekday evening, I'm seeing my friend is at stadium watching a basketball game. I'm like, huh? What's up? It's packed, and then I'm like, okay, who are these people? What's happening here?
Rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole, and then you find out more. But the beauty of it is you can see the growth in real time. We talked about reigning champs last 2.5 years, qualifying for BAL, big deals. From the faith and investment perspective, have you also seen that level of growth? Have you seen, you talked about, there's a few more professional players, teams that are professionalizing, but are you seeing the league as a whole start to grow and professionalize?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so I've been around the sport, like I said, for more than, like about 15 years here in Kenya. And, well, even if you go back 3 years, I don't think you would have seen Nyayo Stadium full.
True.
Nyayo Stadium holds about 800,000 people. So a very small audience, right?
Internationally, for us, it's that's a lot of people. 800,000 people.
8,000.
800. 800.
Yes, for the basketball court. Yes, 800. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
Nyayo
that's
Stadium
small.
is
That's
800 to
true.
1,000 capacity.
Yes.
Now, if you go to any of our league games, even regular season games, it's now full.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and if you try and come to the playoff games, good luck getting in. So now we're talking this year about maybe we have to go to Kasarani to play. I don't know if you saw in the road to BAL in November, we packed out Kasarani 2 days in a row. It's a 5,000 seater.
Yes.
So that shows the demand growth, and it shows that the league, the Premier League, is getting more popular. So I'm really excited about that.
Is the money following?
Well, I mean, obviously ticket sales are directly increasing. I think there could be a lot more capture if there's more around, especially F&B, on these games around,
That's
sponsorship
food and
deals.
beverage.
Food and beverage, sponsorship deals, etc.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity.
So what does it take to turn it around beyond giving it time and letting it grow as beautifully and organically as it is? I know that we've had conversations around golf, we've had conversations around athletics, and just trying to find that bridge between potential, which you've mentioned, and it kind of just like flourishing. What are the bottlenecks, policy-wise, fans mentality-wise, and culture-wise, that you think if we fix this, then we'll begin to really see an explosion? So first, speak to the culture. People are showing up great, but like Mariam asked, how can that translate into, money? Sponsors, I think, can be slow and nervous. How do we get to them? So what, and then policy finally. How do we kind of get things moving by fixing those three?
I'm not sure I'll remember all of those, so you can remind
Policy,
me.
sponsorship, and fan culture. So policy.
Let's start with the policy.
Let's start with the
Oh,
policy.
I wanted to start with fan culture because that's
okay,
the most fun,
All right.
and the easiest.
Finish with the fun one.
Oh, okay, finish with, okay. So on policy, I mean, we already just talked about like making it a little bit more straightforward for investors to come in. I think also, a little bit more discipline around how fixtures and the league management, because I think, it is hard to gain traction as a brand if a league isn't being run on time and
Professionally.
So there needs to be a little bit more discipline around that. And then in terms of obviously anything that the government could do to also support in kind of like concessions and other things to like if we're looking at building facilities, you should enable the private sector to do that by giving them tax breaks on imports and stuff like that. So so there's a lot that could be done to enable it.
Sponsorships, just getting more people, private sector, to just come in. Do they get nervous about the fact that they don't quite understand basketball, or does it just need time?
Look, the corporate community in Kenya has a long history of supporting sports, right? I mean, across all sports, and it's really amazing what they've done. Basketball is no exception. You have a team in the Premier League. You have several teams, Equity, Stanbic, others that are corporate sponsored teams. I think what we have to do is just double down on being trusted partners, good custodians of those sponsorships, showing value. And I'm not just talking about, administration. I'm talking about doing everything you can to blow up that brand. Right? You got to go the extra mile to like show the sponsor that, hey, this is a great investment, because these guys are pushing social media. Their players are ambassadors for the brand, etc. So we can so we're doing a lot of that. I think other teams are doing that too. So it's growing.
Fan culture.
Fan culture. It's so easy because the fans are great.
End of story.
The fans. I think what you see, and you come to our games and stuff, the fact that like Kasarani, 5,000 people came out 2 days in a row to support us. The second day after we had already qualified. So by being in the finals, you were already qualified, but they just came because
just to show
support. We were in South Africa. The Kenyan fans, so many flew down to support us. There's Kenyan fans in South Africa. When we were in Rwanda last year, all the Kenyans in Rwanda showed up to support us. I mean, I think the fans are not just amazing. They're hungry for an exciting product, and so we are inspired all the time to make sure that we show up to provide that to them.
What can be done by maybe the Kenya Basketball Federation, plus the management of the league and clubs such as yourselves, to entrench basketball more in the community? So there's more awareness and more following for basketball. You'll accept, obviously, that when it comes to the main sports, you'll have athletics, you'll have football, you'll have rugby, and rugby have done a lot of work just to make rugby that thing. So what do you need to do for basketball?
So I think, really, you can tell me, but I believe it's, you can confirm this, but I believe, most Kenyan kids are not engaging with basketball until secondary school.
True.
Right?
True. Yep.
We got to get earlier. You got to get earlier. So we have to, it's not just about at the community level, which is very important. So let me start at the community level. At the community level, we need more infrastructure. So there's not enough courts. We need to build more courts, and those courts need to be maintained, which means that you have to have some kind of community ownership around those courts. And these can become safe spaces, right? For the community, places for the community to come together. We spend a lot of time in the community playing in the street league. We also have a street league team that's won 3 years in a row, the street league. And we play in Kaiole. And there's a couple great, courts out there where the community shows out for these games in a big way. We need more of that. Now, at the school level, we also need to be in the schools. And so if we can get, basketball into the curriculum earlier, that would be huge. So yeah, I think those two things are like really just to get it introduced earlier. And then beyond that, it's also about the quality of coaching, etc. We should be doing a lot more to upskill the coaching community.
One of the things that actually doesn't happen is, even with the Ministry of Education, the sports competitions organized at national level or by ministry are at secondary. Right? So you'll find the secondary school sports competitions, which is where basketball also features, and they've gotten a lot of support from, I think, Brookside for the last number of years, right? So which is a good thing that happens on that level. But I think going down to the community, then that requires a lot of work being done, yes, by government, by community members, but also by the enthusiasts of a sport like basketball.
Yeah.
Because investment in a court is not cheap, it's not easy. So maybe just people who love basketball going back into their local communities and coming together and saying, let's put up just a small court and just encourage kids to bounce the ball and, throw.
Yeah.
Sadly, I'm thinking through how estates, like we've talked about planning in the city before. Nairobi, if you go to estates that were planned, they had a football field and a basketball court and just spaces for doing these things. So it's something that we've lost over time, and now we have to fight very hard to bring it back. But I do get what Collin is saying as far as have to start them young.
Start them young. I mean, some of us are just I'm forcing my kids. I'm like, listen, there might be something. And I know your age mates somewhere else are having this opportunity.
Project LeBron.
So I'm just like, just go. They're 7 and 10, so they're young, but I'm like, it's not unusual.
It's not unusual.
But it should be mainstreamed, and it's so unfortunate that it isn't. I wanted to ask a question about what Medina Okot's spotlighting has done, if anything. What kind of conversation it's creating around basketball, around women's basketball. I know I think some people might say it speaks to local gaps, right? Especially for women's basketball. Some people might be like, oh, she had to, be there and drafted, etc. What does it say about how we're, doing things in our system? But just speak to me about what you thought when you saw that, what you've thought about the conversation, whether you think it's adding value to the bigger conversation around basketball.
100%. I've known Medina for a long time. We've been following her story over the last couple of years in the States. I mean, just incredible, right? Like that she was able to go straight from here. First year at Mississippi State that she crushed it, I mean, the first year going straight in, that's very unusual and unlikely. That's how talented she is. And so congratulations to Medina. It's very inspirational, not just to women, but to everybody. This is the biggest deal, I would argue, in Kenyan basketball to date, across both genders. And so you need that, when you were asking earlier about like infrastructure and these things that we need for the kids, we also need role models and we need inspiration, right? So when young kids look up at, and we hope that Nairobi City Thunder, we believe that is what we're building as well, right? When young kids come to our games and they look and they see Ariel Okal, who came from their same community, playing, at the Basketball Africa League and stuff, they're like, oh, there's a pathway for me. When they look at Medina, that's got to be so inspiring.
It is. The move it's massive, and unfortunately with sports or with anything actually, you usually see the after. You don't see like the work that went into it. You don't see the grind, the hustle. But even building a league, again, grind, hustle. And you've talked about the Basketball Africa League. I want to understand how these leagues work. So now we have a Basketball Africa League. How do I get into that? How does Nairobi City Thunder qualify? How is the eventual goal to then transition now to the NBA? Like, walk me through what that structure looks like.
Yeah, so in order to get into the Basketball Africa League, you have to win your local league, and then you go into qualification. The first time you do that, you have to go through 2 layers of qualification. The second time, if you've made it before, you just do the 1 layer, which is the Road to BAL, which was hosted here in Kenya the last 2 years. And then, once you're in, there's a few teams that are like in for, or a few markets, that have permanent place in the BAL. But the rest of us, we have to qualify again the next year, right? So we had to do it again. And so this year we're going to have to do it again. So now there's talk about, franchising the league. So you have permanent members in the league, which I think is a great idea, because if you have to qualify every time, not only is it very expensive and difficult, it also means that you're not able to build fan bases around the permanent teams because the teams are switching out, right? Even the markets that are permanent in the BAL, they could. One of the other teams could win the local league and represent that year, right?
Okay.
So in Rwanda, for example, you might have APR one year, you might have Tigers another year, you might have Reg another year. So you know these teams are switching out, so it's harder to capture value.
How does it work? So, like the NBA has permanent teams, you know, right?
In the North America,
yes,
NBA,
in the North America. So you're in the NBA. What you're essentially trying to do is win, right? So that's essentially that's what we're trying to do as well. Would it kill for a league that's fairly young in terms of it's not young, but you know, young-ish? Would it kill some competitiveness if we do then have permanent representatives at the BAL?
I don't think so, because I think what you'll do, I think what will happen is if you had a Pan-African league where teams are playing home and away, and you have a playoffs, and et cetera, I think it'll create so much opportunity for fans to engage with the highest level of, you know, basketball here on the continent in person, and that will have huge downstream effects and opportunities, because does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It actually does. Okay. From again the BAL perspective, that would be for the continent. How does that feed into the NBA and into other global basketball leagues, if at all?
So the NBA is currently looking at Europe as now to establish an NBA Europe league. Then you have NBA Africa, and then you have the NBA. And they're all three distinct leagues, but they're all run by the NBA.
And so there's no, like, I don't know.
There's no graduation.
Yeah, graduation. That's the
or
word.
like a qualification, like Champions League. You play in your own domestic league, and then in the end you shall.
I like that idea, though. We should bring it up with them and see, because you know the winners of each league.
Right.
Or each federation, and NBA Africa winners, and NBA Europe winners, and then NBA North America winners. You go and play in the Champions League somewhere.
Yeah.
I want to ask the question about back into the investment cycle. And I know we've been discussing it through and through. From your experience and from because you of course had done some research before you decided let's put money into that basketball team.
You're assuming that.
I'm assuming, right? Or even just as much as your gut had told you. What's the runway period for an investor before they start making money?
Okay, so if I was gonna advise somebody who's gonna take over a club today and start from scratch,
Yes.
It depends on a lot of factors, but I would budget for minimum 3 years, probably 5.
Minimum 3 to break even, or to turn a profit?
No, to break even, 3 to 5 years, I would say, if you're doing a great job.
Yeah. That's a lot of work that you need to do.
A lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. Get ready.
Yeah.
It's a full-time thing.
Yeah. What's a risk you took that people didn't understand when you were making this investment? Or is the whole thing
The investment was
the investment? Because it's good for somebody who might be thinking, you know, this is something I'm really looking into. It's good to speak to the risk that people around you are like, dude, why would you take this specific risk for this vision?
Well, I don't think I would have done it without Kush and all the other, people that were part of this from the beginning. And because I think you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And in this case, basketball, you have to love it. If you're going to invest in a basketball team and go on that journey, you have to love it. You have to really love it.
In hindsight, what had you overlooked?
Well, oh my God, so many things.
Tell us about just 3 examples of character development. You're already in it, fit and everything deep, and then
I think I probably underestimated just how much ecosystem things we would have to do. Right, like it's not just about this. Then you're like, oh, we need to think about the media side of things and how that needs to be built out, and we need to think about obviously facilities we knew, but there's a lot of like now we're looking at the regional international competition opportunities. So that's very exciting. It's not something I had thought that much about early on, but now that we've been in the ecosystem, we know there's all these other teams in the region. East Africa is very cool like that, like compared to other regions, is you have all these other cities within an hour flight, right, of here that are really into basketball. So Dar City, they just made it to BAL. Oilers from Uganda, they've made it, a couple times, I think. And Rwanda, Burundi, big basketball country. So you have all, and so things like that where it's like, if I had known that earlier on, we probably would have kind of orientated the business a little bit differently.
Let me go into the welfare of players and the teams and in general, that ecosystem. Talk to me about the benefits of professionalizing a team as opposed to just kind of doing it. And what does that actually mean? Is it nutrition, coaching, healthcare, or is it just it's a paycheck? No,
look, if you talk to the players, they are... most of these players used to have other jobs, right? They had to hustle. And because of that, they could never fully focus on their craft and their passion. And so I believe we've seen a huge uptick in talent and just our players alone on our team, because they are now in the gym 5 times a week. They're practicing 5 times a week. They're playing on the weekends. They're immersed in their craft. They're getting a lot better, and also you'll have career longevity is also something that I believe we'll be seeing over the next 5 to 10 years, because these players are all getting proper nutrition, recovery, all that stuff.
Physio. The Kikombe is asking, the venture and the ecosystem that you're curating around sports in Kenya is laudable. Question is, if returns don't come in business-wise in years, but the culture is ripe, would you stay or exit?
We're all in. We're staying.
Kikombe is thinking about how Gava does things. And they're like, hey, Haisongi, let's go.
Yeah. No, even many people who go into business.
Yeah,
you go into business and you're like, all right, it doesn't make sense, cut your losses, move, all right, before you continue sinking a lot more into this.
Yeah.
But it's not a passion-driven project.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from Collin, this is both passion and it's something that he loves, basketball, playing, watching, owning and everything.
All of it, yeah.
Plus now seeing the business side of it. So maybe that's what would make you stay. It's passion that would keep you here.
Yeah.
Right? It's passion that would keep you going, even if the taps ran dry.
Yeah, look, I think also in years to come, there's going to be a lot, I believe, there's so much potential in sports in Kenya and in Africa in general, that there is going to be a lot of business opportunity down the road. I think there's many people that are more comfortable to come in at that stage than at this stage.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're going to reap the benefits of being, day one, or so to say.
Which is what I was going to come to. If we get this right, talk to us about what a successful sports economy looks like a decade from now. Jobs, revenue, everything. Yeah.
It's the whole ecosystem, right? Like, think about how big the sports ecosystem is globally. How many jobs are created through sports and how valuable sports is, right? I mean, you're talking about, even in Kenya, the creative economy is like 5% of the economy, right? With almost zero, or not, I shouldn't say, but very little investment.
Right? It's almost zero, you're
almost,
right.
Yeah.
And so imagine, like, how, like, with investment coming in, so you have, and I'm not just talking about sports because I'm also talking about the entertainment side, the media side, and those things support each other, right? So, and as you build that out and you create that, now I just feel like it's going to explode. So, yeah, I mean, it's almost endless if you think about like all the kind of spin-off things like around the sports ecosystem. So you got the media, you got the kind of performance side, medicine side. You've got the facility maintenance side. You've got
entertainment.
Collin, let's do this. We are visual people, right? So let's start with the direct employment, and then we go into the indirect employment. So directly, for example, just with you as Twende Sports and what you've invested in, what kind of people are actually employed and earning a regular income from just NCT. So we've got our players, of course.
We have about 15 players.
15 players.
And then about almost as many staff, about 12 staff.
That's directly?
That's directly.
Full-time.
Indirectly?
Well, indirectly, so we are constantly hiring content creators. We're hiring, physios come, part-time. Especially around tournaments, you'll have a jump in different people that you'll need to bring on. We're hiring referees but they're not full-time, but we'll have them engaged several times a week to ref our scrimmages. We're hiring, who else am I?
Nutrition.
From nutrition, nutritionist.
Definitely a nutritionist.
Cooks.
We actually have a mental health person right now that's just coming on board.
Right.
Yes, we have, so then you have all the vendors, right? So you have this lady who brings us the players' juice, or everything. Uji, the lady that brings Uji to
Uji power.
Yeah, to the arena. We have rebounders. These young kids that will come in. We'll have 3 under each basket that are rebounding. They're making a couple hundred shillings for a couple hours of work for them. It's so there's all of this ecosystem around the full-time kind of employees.
Staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a lot. Now I can imagine if we just take that into then the Premier League and a Premier League that is getting bigger and bigger. All these people, all those 12 clubs in the Premier League are all getting all these people employed. And then the league itself then gets into, let's say, a media partnership. And the media side is also getting people employed. So there's a lot that can actually just be extrapolated from investing in the club. And how much employment can be created around this. All this, by the way, I'm talking to Salim Mvurya, the Cabinet Secretary for Sport. Just, boss. One of the ways in which you can shine to the boss is by going and saying, look, if we invest, for example, in days we have football, we have seen what we've done. We are hosting AFCON next year. We've done this. We've seen what we've done with athletics. We've seen what we've done with rugby. Next frontier, let's go into basketball. Let's go into tennis, right? And just see how many people can get employed through this.
And this is the ecosystem and how many lives it's changing and impacting.
Yes.
Like Ikombe is hilarious. In primary, I was great at basketball. But when I joined Maseno School, I found that they had moved the rim a bit higher than expected, while everyone else was able to slam dunk. Now I watch.
The rim moved, magically overnight.
I know it happens. And then
It happens.
they appear to have had a guy who went there as principal called Otula. Otula left Mangu High School to go to become principal at and he was big at Kenya Basketball Federation. He was actually the president. Guy is tall.
He's only moved the rim.
I mean,
that's the only explanation.
If he's
you
the
can
coach.
think
Yeah, makes sense. I wanted to go into, just before we close, I know we have a few minutes left. Higher education in basketball, because we've threaded the importance of starting them young, but then we also see in bigger leagues elsewhere the place of higher education in sports, right? And that pipeline, what it looks like. Do we have any similar thing? Is anyone going to any Kenyan university on a basketball scholarship?
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually, several of the teams in the Premier League are actually universities. So you have Strathmore, USIU, University of Nairobi, etc. So a lot of those players are on scholarship.
Oh, wow.
And by the way, some of our players have gone on to university scholarships. So we had one young man who went to Taiwan, full ride to university. So his entire
amazing,
university is paid for, and a couple others that went to the U.S. So absolutely, is the stepping stone to higher education for sure.
The reason I'm threading on these things is just to make sure that player welfare is like top of mind, and that there's also a sustainability behind it, because one of the advantages of higher education mixing with sports is that in the event of injuries there's like a fallback plan, which then begs the question: is there anything else being done to grow the capacity of players, to be able to invest, to be able to grow their personal brands around the game, outside the court?
Yeah, first of all, we have a sponsor that exactly offers this, which is Nexford University. So several of our players have taken advantage of that and are doing a higher degree through Nexford University. But there's also other things that we've done along the way where we brought in different, around financial management, around other things, because some of these players also hadn't, really had this kind of income before, and so it's the financial management aspect, and we are also looking at, and we always look first to the players that have retired out of our system to as employees, right? So we've had several players that no longer could play for whatever reason that now are employees. Okay. So you create your own kind of like pipeline, if you like.
Okay. Is there anything that mainstream media needs to do differently to amplify this? Because I think digital, Mariam gave a good example. You saw something online, and there you are. Now you're essentially a supporter of this ecosystem. Yeah. Just not to put you on the spot, Collins, no pressure. But what in terms of the mainstream media, what do you think needs to shift in terms of amplification and prioritization of this kind of work to reach a wider audience beyond just like the sports programs?
Well, could I turn the question around, because you guys are the media experts, and
he's like, why don't you tell me what you need to do?
Exactly.
It's fair, to be honest. And I know you've been engaging media, but especially you've been doing it from a content side, and that does speak to your core audience. Yeah, which is I honestly can't fault that. It's a catch-up game for what is called legacy or traditional media or
That's true.
It's you have to go where things are happening and make yourself a part of it. So it's to anyone who's a sports journalist who's just interested in content and anything like that, to make sure that you're amplifying the stories. Like a road to BAL is something, even the name itself is already giving you the story. It's a plug and play. I don't think there's anything really crazy, but also it's the nature of the coverage, because I think of the core audience, it's young, so it's the nature of the coverage and how you reach these people. So
but these folks are the ones who can put money inside legacy. So it's like, how do you?
That's the thing, though. Yeah,
it's a balance.
I think it's the nature of the content. One,
I guess so.
How do you get traditional media to put money into it? That's a good. Well.
So there's one side of media putting money into it as an investor. But media also creates content to make money.
Right. So. I was like, that one I can see. The media putting in the money, I think that's a factor of time, perhaps. But for now, it's you make the content makes the money. I don't know.
Something like that.
We're thinking out loud as well. Thank you for the challenge.
It's helpful.
No, thanks for the challenge, because the scene is growing by and large without a lot of notice from traditional media.
That's true.
And that should be like, okay, what's happening there? Why is there a lapse? But it's conversations like this. It's getting online, it's getting on TikTok and following and showing up to a game and realizing this is a big deal. There's 5,000 people in this room.
And then creating awareness from there.
That's right.
Collin Rasmussen is the title, CEO and President of Nairobi City Thunder. I read title the way it is on the poster. CEO and President of Nairobi City Thunder and Twende Sports. Thank you so much for shedding incredible light on this conversation. Really appreciate it. Our One of Your World at 10 a.m. Kemi International Conference, Catalyst for Transformation, Reinventing Leadership in Sustainable and Inclusive Education Ecosystems. That'll be at 10. At 11, we switch to love, right? When past love takes center stage. Same cast, new emotions. Hey, it's called Range. Your world will like, don't mess with us, we have range.
We do.
This is Mwikali, who will be hosting on NTV. On Nation FM, we'll have Brian Eseli and Claudia Naisabwa on Vibe Shift.
Let's end.
Let's end with the clip. Yes,
we're actually showing Collin.
I wasn't actually playing that. Now I feel like
it's okay, Maria.
Well, a player that Collin should consider drafting into the Nairobi City.
See you tomorrow. We'll watch this as we leave.